I'm going to bring up one of these guys that he's the kind of guy, when you meet him, you're like, yes, you should be the president and the leader of things because you're a nice guy. And you're tall and you wear a lot of gel or something. I like you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Farhan Latif.
Thank you very much, Mona. Really appreciate that setup. Good evening, everyone. Ever since Mona's got here, she's been trying to touch my head, so you can do it after the program. Thank you for the warm welcome. We are so honored to have everyone here. And Mona, as we discussed, the first 4 rows are board, guest, award winners. So just maybe after that, I'm just kidding. Precious, thank you for that powerful invocation and really just grounding us in a spiritual way as we start the program. And Hussein, what a riveting and beautiful spiritual reflection. You're a gifted artist, and me and my daughter are very interested in your act too, and we can't wait for you to come back on stage. So thank you for that. Let's give a round of applause. We are so delighted you decided to join us in celebrating the accomplishments and progress made by our communities and leaders. And as we stepped outside, it seemed like people were having a blast. So we're really glad that you actually came inside and joined us for the program. As we come together in this circle of gratitude to honor the important work that our leaders have done publicly and privately, this awards program is not intended to be just a mere performance. And it's not about fancy visuals and videos. It's meant to be a reflection of us. Our collective opportunities, challenges, hopes, fears, collective resolve and resilience, and not only to withstand and survive, but create breakthroughs and thrive. Tonight is about showcasing powerful stories of ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Since we gathered together since last year, and I see many of you joining us again, I wanted to start tonight by sharing some reflections that we've been learning here at EHF. One of the key lessons that we've learned through our programs, convenings, funding streams, is that at times we see a trust deficit that exists between our community's leadership. And this probably does not surprise many of you. We know resources are scarce. We know that our goals are too high to reach alone. We know that collaboration, partnerships, intersectionality are all the key words we hear every day. But the first and most basic step in getting there is building trust. And too often we have the desire to jump straight into collaboration before any real trust has been built. Would you agree? Yeah. Let me share an example. This year, we convened about 40 nonprofit leaders from across the country who, are working on commonly shared goals. And we were struck by how many of these leaders were sitting in the room for the first time. Now, they must have been in large gatherings like this or attending fundraising events, but they never had sat together side by side and begun to really understand what's their calling, why are they involved in this work, or if they understand that they're taking different strategies and approaches to meet the same goal, solving the same problem. I know how easy it is for us to keep falling into our silos because we're constantly firefighting. But to do the work we actually need to do, our communities need to build trust. Without taking the time to learn each other's work, our background, or hear each other's stories, we won't have the foundation of trust for authentic collaboration or long-lasting partnerships. Instead, at times when we jump into collaborations, when we see the slightest hiccup, let's say, for example, some organization sends out a press release before the other, or someone was not invited to a specific event, everything comes to a crashing halt. And we know that there are important issues in which our community actually has real differences of opinion. And then healthy expression of variance of thoughts and perspectives is critical to progress. But our hope is to identify and address these consistent zero-sum fault lines in our communities, which can easily break down and rupture our coalitions and partnerships and bring whatever potential win-win to a screeching halt. So it's especially meaningful for us tonight to celebrate our collective accomplishments and really learn about the people and the stories behind them. It's about seeing these individuals in all their dimensions and recognizing the sweat and blood it takes to do the work that they're doing. And when we learn about the people behind the titles, we may also start to understand why they engage in this important work. And at times, although we may not agree with their strategies, we cannot discount their love and commitment that goes about in serving our communities. They all embody an important teaching of our tradition, which reminds us that the most beloved people to God are those that bring most benefit to the other. It is my hope that we are reminded tonight that we must keep injecting empathy, love, civility, and mutual respect in our communities, despite the fact that it is far from the dominant trend in our culture today. How much more could we accomplish as a community if we had trust in place? What kind of impact could we have if we achieved our goals collaboratively, focusing on contribution and not attribution? So tonight, as we begin our program by looking at the outstanding individuals that are trying to move the needle on a critical issue, we start by looking at the work of Nadia. She knows firsthand what it means to face trials, tribulations, and misunderstanding. When we learn about the imams who have sexually assaulted women and children in our community, our blood boils. It's heartbreaking, disgraceful, and absolutely inexcusable. Survivor stories are too often overlooked, second-guessed, and dismissed, and survivors themselves too often are judged, shamed, and blamed. And this is unacceptable. Perhaps at times, when living under the cloud of Islamophobia, we're afraid to address these issues, afraid to see what the people from outside the community will say about this perfect Muslim community. But if we don't address these abuses, we can't protect the vulnerable. All of us are called to stand with these women and girls in our communities. And so tonight we are so proud to honor Nadia Muhajir, who has dedicated the past decade to centering her heart and soul on the well-being of women and girls. She empowers educators and advocates across the country, shining a spotlight where we need to do more work as a community and as a country. Nadia, we are grateful for your accomplishments and the important work that your team is doing. You have founded and led an organization and started a conversation that's so desperately needed in our community at this time. And congratulations on being the 2018 Community Builder Award winner. In the last year alone, we have witnessed and experienced a dramatic uptick in hate crimes mosques being burnt, and community members being attacked. And unfortunately, we can say the same about other marginalized communities and minority communities in the country. As I've traveled across the country, I have never seen so many security guards outside of mosques, community centers, and Sunday schools. Even today, we had to hire people for security, outside. And as a community, we're already so stretched in trying to build. And these conversations in climate has made us stretch even further. But alhamdulillah, thanks to the incredible allyship we see today, we don't feel alone. There are people who have stretched with us, alongside us. And Amardeep Singh is the fearless ally who has stretched and stood by the community for the past 2 decades. He is a leader who is not only organized within his own faith community and built a leading institution, but he's also been a pillar of support after 9/11. Amar has used his power, privilege, and platform to advocate for inclusion in every possible setting, in the civil rights space, community spaces, philanthropic circles. He's been a vocal advocate for championing so many of our organizations and helping build our institutional capacity and supporting intersectional work and movement building in this space. Amar is empathetic, humble, strategic, and a quality that is often overlooked, but is so important, is that he's a great listener. Most importantly, his turbans are trend-setting and always match his ties. Sorry. I meant to say, most importantly, he's a brother and we love him. Thank you, Amar, for being a fearless ally to Muslim communities. And today he is joined by his wonderful parents, 3 beautiful kids, wife, and aunt. Please join me in congratulating Amar as our Fearless Ally Award winner. And speaking of allyship, let me turn to Marshall Gans now, or Sheikh Gans as we refer to him at the foundation. And hopefully by the end of the evening you understand why. There is no more deserving Peace Education Prize winner this year than the wise Marshall Gans. His societal impact and legacy spans over a decade of work across America and across the world. Allow me to unpack this a little bit. He has trained at least over 35,000 students and leaders, conducted 480 trainings in over 52 countries around the world. His life, his work defined peace education, organizing communities, advancing inclusion, equality, social justice, respect for human dignity, human difference, and human rights. Tonight, at least half or more of our presenters, Marshall, on stage have benefited directly from your training. And there's so many more sitting in this room. May I ask the folks that have gone through Marshall's public narrative training or organizing training to please stand up? Please remain standing. Please remain standing. Marshall, we are so honored that you have joined us this evening. And I would like the alumni to show their support by taking part in the Marshall's organizing clap. Can we do that for him? All right, let me try leading this, all right? It would take the remainder of the program to cover your lifetime and accomplishments and contributions to this space. But please join me in recognizing Marshall for our 2018 Peace Education Prize Award winner.